I mean, absolutely. I'd say the Morph already has some great targets to morph into. We'll just see. I mean, against the AA, obviously, it can be very, very difficult to actually play the hero effectively. On top of the A, well, I was about to say PL was still available, but it's not. AG did actually pan it out with their last ban in that last phase, so YG, I'm kind of curious where they want to go with this position 1 pickup. In last game around, they were quite stuck with that carry pickup, the last pick. They didn't really have the greatest options to go into a TB. We saw them try to go down the Faceless Void route, but that just did not work.
Oh boy.
So they're going to go down this route again. Here's the thing. They do have Chrono and the Ice Blast, right? So you've got, as long as you land the Chrono and you have Ice Blast, if you catch the Morphling, you're probably going to be able to blow him up, right? Like that should be what happens. You do have Empower from Magnus, so you're going to have more damage, and you're going to actually have something that allows you to farm without needing a Maelstrom. And on top of that, you've got an Ember outside spamming Sleight of Fist. So I think it's a much better Void game already. I'm still concerned because it's Void.
Yeah, that's the big issue. Like, you do have good steroids for the Void with the Empower. Your Ember can play outside. Your AA can play outside.
Oh, well,
that's a
problem.
counterplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get the Oracle. You've got Natural Disarm. You've got False Promise to save someone from being bursted down. Stall out for time. Even outside that, you already had Tide. So if you Chrono and you don't catch Tide, if you don't have BKB, he just ravages. And we've seen that before. In fact, in Pro Series 7 or 8, where that happened multiple times back to back. And I think that's still going to be an issue for a Void. Like, he has to farm BKB now on top of everything else, stall out his big damage spikes with, say, Maelstrom Mom, and going afterwards. A BKB has to be in that pool now as well, just to prevent that play. And even then, you have to worry about Oracle. Like, if he false promises, that's your Chrono pretty much gone. You can still get the damage off, but you're stalled out. You're not finding that kill. You're not sure if you find that kill. You might not be able to change targets and focus on someone else. So, a great pick from AG. I think it ties them up quite nicely. That does reveal our Tide Hunter is likely our Wami hero, but no issues there. We've seen Wami play the Tide multiple times as well.
Yep.
The last pick for YG is going to be an interesting one. Now, there's an off chance that they could just pick a different POS 1, run a support Void. I'll keep saying that. They could run POS 5 Void for AA, a different one, and I think that's how you balance it out. You have these 2 picks that target the Void, especially with the Oracle. Suddenly, your support counter pick was just targeting another support as well.
Sure. I mean, I feel like the Oracle still does its job, though, right? Like, you are kind of relying on the Chrono to set up, so it does feel like the disarm false promise is still going to be a massive issue, no matter how you look at it. We'll see. I mean, YG, they might run a support Void. We might see it fly out. AG don't seem to think so. They do get rid of those supports that do tend to maximize the Chronos. The Skywrath and Snapfire both banned out. We'll see what else they go down. I do believe it's a POS 1 Void we're looking at. Should be a POS 4 to end things off.
They could go Phoenix. It's probably the last hero left that hasn't been banned.
They'll go
No,
Pango.
they go Pangolier.
Okay. More team fight.
So, yeah, more team fight. That can do damage in the Chrono. AG go to Ricky. So that's a Ricky mid. No, it's a Ricky Safeling for DB. Okay, they're running Azura mid morph. I believe Azura has played that a couple times before, I think, on the Prime. Although he was POS 1 on the Prime, I believe, and Rusman was mid. So I think that's fine. The mid matchup, Morphling versus Ember, definitely feels a little bit more Ember favored. Of course, Morphling takes level 3 to really shift around with attribute shift and hold its own. But this does kind of give you security in AG side. You can play really fast with Ricky. You just need to hit your defusal timing and you can run and gun from there. If you don't catch Ricky out, you can just smoke screen on Void. If he sees the Void jump in, he can smoke screen the Void to prevent Chrono. So that's another thing that the BKB has to fly out for. How? A much more even draft. I think YG has some room to get their Void up and running, especially since they've got the Magnus support from Skillay. So they at least have the Empower to play with Void. But it's still a Void. It's still tied into Chrono. It's still tied into that long timer. And as you mentioned last game, Mike, it can be hard to deal with Chrono in the late game, but we're talking about like 50, 60 minutes in. The last game didn't last that long.
Here's the thing, right? This is the way I see the game for YG. If young PH doesn't pop off, they're just going to get run over. That's the way I'm looking at this draft. I think you need young PH to have a really damn good game on this Ember. Because if they can't tempo set, if they can't put a pace on AG this game, if DB gets to the stage where he has the diffusal blade up on this Ricky at an early timing, I think the game's just over. Like, think about how much he counters with the smokescreen diffusal blade. Like the Ember, the Magnus, the Void, everyone, the Pango, like nobody enjoys going against this Ricky with the diffusal blade. I think DB's just gonna farm a quick diffusal, and he's gonna look to get active with the rest of his team. They'll probably allow Azura to just play like a pos 1 Morphling from the mid lane. I think if young PH, if he doesn't have a good game, if he can't set the pace for his team, I think they're gonna be in massive, massive issue here in this game too. Plenty of team fight, but it's not going to matter if you don't have the follow-up.
Yeah, we saw that same issue last time, right? Like, they had a lot of team fight on YG's side, and they just couldn't execute. So I agree with all your points there, Mike. I think our opinion is pretty much the same. YG's got to put a lot of work in to get young PH a good start and to get running. They are in high spirits, so look at it. They're still saying have fun to each other, wishing each other good luck, have fun. Again, friends. AG is probably the most friendly team, if I can say that. You know, like, they literally chat to everyone. Like, they're not shy folk. They just talk to everyone. They're friends with everyone. So it's good to see that camaraderie is still holding up with YG. But I'm sure YG, put friendship aside, they want that win.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe that's how they get them, John. They just kind of act friendly and just make you feel sorry for them, and then they just destroy you. You never know. The mind games, John. DB, or rather AG, might just be the masters of the mind game here as YG are posturing aggressively. Young PH, that's not where you want to be right now, sir. Is he trying to bait for his team? I don't think so. I was wondering maybe they could get a skewer back into the tier 1 tower with skill lay, but you've got to be very cautious. Like, even with this draft, it doesn't look amazing at level 1, but it kind of is with Gush Fortune's End. It's a lot of lockdown.
The battle begins.
DB gonna try and move in for the bounty. Does manage to pick it up. Looks like that'll be enough.
Was that intentional?
Should be a 2-for-2 trade for both ends. Let's see how this laning stage goes. We'll start off with the top lane. You've got Lund there along with Skill Lay on the Mag and Pango, because they are going to be up against Varish on the Oracle and DB on the Ricky. Do you feel like they can shut down DB on this Ricky? Because again, I am a bit concerned that he's going to be able to farm that Diffusal Blade too quick here.
They've got good forward presence with Magnus and with a Pangolier. They've got pretty decent damage output, so I think DB's got to be a little bit more cautious in the initial levels. At the same time, you've got this good combination with Ricky and with Oracle, where you could just charge up a Fortune's End, blink in aggressively if you see that opportunity in play there. So it goes both ways. I think what is good for YG is that by the time you hit level 3, you do have a lot of damage to pump out, and you can kind of just zone out the Oracle and harass out the Ricky from a safe range with the Shockwave, with a Swashbuckle, and even just a Shield Crash. That is a good amount of damage, and Ricky's not a very tanky hero.
Certainly not. In the mid lane, of course, you've got Azura there against Young PH. The Young PH struggling a little bit in terms of CS, and I think this is to be kind of expected against the Morphling. So he has so much base damage with the Agimorph. It can be kind of hard to actually out-CS the Morph. The Young PH, though, he can certainly start to get aggressive and force the Strength Morph back the way of the Morph. Let's see how he tries to deal with this. It does seem like he wants to go down the aggressive route, especially before that level 3 mark. Unfortunately, though, the level 3 is coming probably with this creep wave.
Yeah, and that's where Azura's going to feel a lot more safe. Just shifting around a lot faster. Mana's not going to be an issue. You're not really using your spells too much in this lane except for a couple of stuns, and those are very cheap early on with the adaptive strike, so should be able to hold on. The one issue for the Ember here is that your main clearing tool, Flame Guard, it doesn't protect you, so you will clear out the creep wave, but you can't stop the right-click damage Azura has, and it's just so much early on.
It's a lot of damage. We've seen this before. Azura, he's going to secure one water rune. Does he go for the next one? I mean, you get a bit of a bonus out of these water runes when you're a morphling and you can just Agimorph. He'll go back for the creep wave. Young PH, he doesn't have a bottle anyway, but he does have one on the way in the courier. But no, Azura? Very cautious, sir. He's going to go in with the strength morph. Young PH. He's going to pop the fairy fire just in case. And in fact, Azura is going to be able to get the other water rune anyway. So just going to deny that away from Young PH. Now a bit of messing around with the creep waves, but Azura's got a double on his way.
Yeah, and he even caught the range creep, so it's not something Young PH can easily last hit for. He's going to miss out on some much-needed EXP on that one and some much-needed gold. Oh.
I think it's kind of clever, though, from Young PH to force the double creep wave, because Azura can't Agimorph right now. So his base damage is very low at the moment. He's going to be very cautious, because if there was a Slider Fist to come in, he'd just be dead. So Young PH just trying some advanced tactics here in the mid lane to try and force Azura to feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. At the same time, Azura's already got the double rate ban, so he has a lot of stacks of Agi. He can afford to shift more into strength and just still do a ton of damage. Still getting all the CS. 17-7 on the morph up against Young PH at 10-3. A slower start for that Ember.
Top lane, Lun does end up going down. Varish, we saw him last game, just very dominant. This game around, secures first blood for his team. Of course, the Oracle it's a very big power spike for the Oracle during the laning stage of that level 3 mark. Level 2 Purifying Flames is just some ridiculous damage. I think if you could just keep abusing this power spike from Varish, you'll be a very, very happy side of AG. In the meantime, bot lane, Zorain ends up dropping. Wami able to pick up another kill for the side of AG.
And they're not able to really zone out the Tidehunter in this lane. Again, you have some potential if you get the time lock and you do manage to follow up on the cold feet, lock in that Tide. You could try to kill him early on. Issue is you already have the Ring of Health here on Wami. He's going to have his Soul Ring up as well, and he's probably going to rush that Hood of Defiance just to mitigate the magic damage. So once you hit those spikes in the Tide, you're pretty much dealing with something that you can't move out from lane. And that's just going to be very steady. He's up there in CS, kind of keeping up with Faceless Void. So it's not a free lane for Hal. It's still a better start for Hal compared to Game 1, though. So I think that's good news for YG despite this sort of back and forth start.
Certainly so. I think as a Faceless Void, you need to have a great start on this hero. Like, you can't really afford to be kind of left behind as a Faceless Void in this current meta. Zora misses that range creep with the Adaptive Strike. Very upsetting to see. And props to Young PH. He's been very aggressive on this Ember. Just not allowing Azura to do what he wants in this Morphling.
Yeah, he's managed to hold back the Morph a little bit better. He's still lagging a bit behind in CS, which is worrying. I think overall, if you're a Morphling, you're not finding kills, but you are finding better farm. And that's all you really want in this hero. Hit level 6, get your Morph up, and just keep farming. Just slow game for the Morphling.
Look how aggressive they're being towards Zorain. Like, this man, he will just not be left alone for a second. Wami's creep skipping right now. He's got the Soul Ring up, so he can just spam the Gush whenever he really wants. And Zorain, it looks like he's not going to have an easy path back to the tier 1 tower down at that bot lane. Wami's just being a real nuisance here on this off-lane Tide. And I mean, I like this. He just keeps pulling the creep wave away, maximizes that farming efficiency by farming the jungle. Because Zorain, he's forced to try and intercept this and try to do something about it. But there's not much he can do as an AA.
Yeah, really not much. And that is the Hood of Defiance flying out as well for Wami. So that harassment coming through from the AA is going to feel even less impactful now, as Wami's just going to be able to pretty much solo the lane if you want. So like LYM can just rotate around, look for mid, cut off the jungle, maybe start to check out stacks they have managed to clear out with Young PH. With the Empower, you know, you can clear out these early stacks fast, and that should lead Young PH to have some farm injection for some early items.
Oh, Zorain, wrong place, wrong time, sir. Does try to come into that mid lane to at least soak some XP and get some farm going for himself, but not going to be able to achieve that as he goes down immediately to Azura. PH trying to give him the space on that pos 5 AA, but looks like he'll have to take over the lane once again.
Yeah, it's not quite lining up, and top.
Yeah, Lun, he's been caught out. Oh, a nice dodge as well on the skewer. DB. Just perfect timing there with the tricks. And they might even find another. I mean, Fortune's End is back up in just a second. Purifying Flames out. Fortune's End's there. DB, he's just got so much damage. And that'll be a double kill now going to the way of the Ricky. AG 0-5, and it almost feels like a repeat of game 1 with the way this is going right now.
Yeah, it's basically a perfect game from AG so far. YG just not finding the openings. They are having a better time in CS. Again, Young PH is up there clearing the stacks. Hao has not been slowed down too badly in the bot lane. At the same time, he's not really able to be aggressive. He's got the chrono ready. They don't really have the follow through for that. And Young PH.
He's just trying to fight over the power runes right now, but Varish is there to take the regen rune away. He'll try to heal himself up. Skewer's going to be there, though. Can he actually get himself out? Young PH, Slide of Fist, not going to be enough. He'll Remnant Fall, but it's duked out. Varish, he does eventually go down. But now Azura wants to try and chase down Young PH, but a bit of forward thinking here, John, from our Ember. He hasn't skilled up chains, understanding that Azura can just counter him with his own chains.
Yeah, it's a heads-up play. Of course, he is trying to go all in on the Slight as well and just clearing out stacks, getting max value from early Empower, and this is the way to go. So they're hitting that spike on the Ember. They've got Phase Boots up. I believe Orb of Corrosion's not too far off if they want to finish that up. And that's when the damage output of Young PH with Empower is just going to be sickening. Like, you will have to watch yourself when the Slight Fist does start flying out.
Definitely problematic. And back down to the bot lane, Hal. Still farming very efficiently here on this Void. Keep in mind, this is without the Empower up yet. So this farm is only set to escalate. AG thus far haven't been too concerned about it, but now Fortune's End going to fly in. Hal, you were farming great, but you're in trouble now. Ravage is out. Do they have the damage in time, though? Not quite. He's going to be just fine. Does force out a 3-hero rotation as well as a Ravage, and they get nothing out of it.
Yeah, they're starting to protect that Faceless Void a lot better. There's a damage issue early on from AG when you don't have your Morphling coming in, when your Ricky's not making moves. There is a shortage of damage, so you have to watch yourself when you commit that hard. Azura is here now, though.
Yeah, Zorain gonna end up dropping. Another one of those kind of tough games is the POS 5. Just so many heroes that can just burst you down so quick. It's Young PH currently being stalked here by DB. Remnant back the other way. I still feel like even with your Void farming this well, you are very reliant on Young PH having a good game. It's not too bad thus far. I mean, he's at 3.8k net worth. Could be better, could be worse. Meanwhile, bot lane, Chrono's been committed. They're going to try and go onto Azura, but he's just strength morphing. There's no killing him right now. In fact, he might turn back around onto Lun. They'll try to force another team fight. The Tide still surviving throughout all this damage output from Hal. As Lun, he's going to try and make his own way up. But Wami's there with the Anchor Smash. He secures the kill, and now Hal, he's in big, big trouble. Fortune's going to fly in, and they get the kill. It doesn't get much worse than that.
It really doesn't. They couldn't even kill off Wami with that deep dive. They commit Chrono, Rolling Thunder, doesn't amount to much. I think at this point, you actually do need your AA to hit level 6. Like, Zorain has to have the Ice Blast for that follow-through damage on the Chrono. Without it, it just falls flat. They will find LYM, though. So it's a nice pickup for Young PH, as he is scouting out and trying to punish, but DB's here.
Look at the damage output from DB already. Now, you imagine he had a Diffusal Blade right now. I believe it's actually on the Courier, by the way. In fact, never mind, it's not. But he is very, very close to that Diffusal. Once that's up, it's hard to imagine these heroes being able to survive.
Yeah, he's just going to rip right through them. And you're going to have to be really cautious on the side of YG. You have to get your control out for the Ricky. You have to start investing more in the sentries. They do have a decent coverage of wards now, kind of cutting across their jungle. So they've got some notion as to where the heroes are, but they're not really jumping the Ricky. Whereas you compare that to AG, they're just keeping track of where Hao is at. They kind of go to the same lane and prevent him from free farming.
Skill lane, and get Fortune's ended up. He's got the skill, but he's going to have to take Wami with him. And Wami will be more than happy to oblige. He does secure another kill on this Tide Hunter. Still has the Ravage up just in case he needs it. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, though, Azura, ends up going down. Young PH able to secure the kill onto the Morphling, and now he's just going to try and run his way out, but he will end up dropping a DB who keeps rushing forward onto Zorain. Tricks the trade away from Lun, and might even reinitiate back onto the Pango if he's not too careful. As Lun is a man on the run now. Varish, Fortune's End is out, but DB, he's got his eyes set onto Zorain instead. That'll be another nice pick up there onto the AAs. They even take his courier down. No remnants of Zorain left on the map. And I believe that is DB's Diffusal Blade now officially coming out on the courier.
Yep, that's a major damage spike for our Ricky. He's already doing a ton of work without it. As you mentioned, Mike, he's going to be able to just rip right through mid lane. They are going to try to defend. Wami's here. He's got Ravage. This could be a painful team fight.
Fortune's End's there. Young PH still surviving and being just fine, but DB now moving in with the Diffusal Blade. Wami trying to bait out something. Trying to distance there. Ice Blast is out as well. They'll get the Tide Hunter. And it was a nice Ravage, but not nice enough. As now the smoke screen. No Young PH. Oh, 1 minute their voice lines flying out from YG. The next minute you've lost your mid-ember. And now it's onto the mid-tier 1 tower. I don't see them defending without the Ember Spirit up.
They already used Ice Blast as well, so even with a Chrono or RP play, they don't have the big security in finding that kill, and finding any kill in the Chrono, and they're going to just have to take a step back. Mid-tier 1 will stand for a bit longer, though. AG not able to fully commit. But they are building up. 4k lead, 4-13. Azura's just playing the jungle, working onto his Manta style, trying to get some more stats up on the Morphling. DB, as we pointed out, already has that Diffusal up, going for his own Manta. So they're going to hit some nice good spikes early on. For the side of YG, I think, as you mentioned, there's some more pressure in Young PH, but to a certain extent, I think you need your Magnus up as well. Like, Skill A needs a Blink at least, and once he has that Blink, he can play with Blink Skewer. He could look for the RP to set up for the Chronos and Ice Blast. So pretty far TP up.
Just doesn't really fear anything right now, I don't think, Wami. Just keep spamming Anchor Smash, has the Hood of Defiance. You gotta love the fact that that Hood of Defiance does actually reduce the bash damage, but with the Ice Blast flying in, they'll have enough. Wami is gonna drop once again to this Ice Blast combination. Zora now, though, haste rune up. He's going to try and chase down Hal. He has a substantial amount of damage, but he won't have the control. So YM going to be chased. Zora still just rushing around this team fight. Now Hal to jump back in. Does find LYM. Remnants forward as well. Young PH, he'll join the fray. False Promise going to be forced out by Varish. Nazura still moving back in as the Ember. Going to get the chains off. And they might have enough damage. In fact, Fortune's End is going to lock him down, but not for long enough. DB, he'll move in onto Lun. They'll find one. They don't quite get the Ember kill they wanted. It still seemed like a pretty even team fight between these two teams.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes both ways. I think YG is overall going to be happy with that, as they are giving a little bit more onto Young PH, and they do manage to regroup. They expended only Chrono, so they still have Ice Blast ready to go once more. They've got RP still ready to go. We haven't seen Skill A find the angle to use that spell yet, and that means there's always the threat of an RP if you clump up too hard in AG. And AG, just back to farming. They take the fight, they need to go back, just build up. I think once you hit at least the Manta on Azura, you should be more comfy in the front lines, but DB, he doesn't care. Just wants to keep going.
He could just delete Zorain here. He knows that there's other heroes around, though, and I think that's the concerning sign. He's got teammates coming in, however. DB, in fact, he was spotted by that sentry. They almost just wanted him to come in and try to go for the kill onto the AA. He won't, however. This will give YG more time to secure their own farm up. In the meantime, Wami's brought out his Blink Dagger now, so that's on the way in the courier. It does have Ravage back up as well. So you do have that instant initiation here from the Tide. I think you might just want to go for a quick smoke up with this. Just go for the surprise reveal and... well, never mind the smoke. DB's around. They have found themselves an Ember. They may not even need the Ravage, but no, they do. Quick remnant away from Young PH as he senses something was wrong, and he was correct.
Yeah, Good game senses on young PH. Just getting what farm he can, backs off, playing a lot safer than we've seen last time, and buying more time. For YG, the slow game is the way to go. They just want to be online, Honor Faces Void, Honor Ember, with more items coming through. I think AG is the one that might feel the need to play faster. Like, they can scale into late game with Morphling. Even a Ricky, to an extent, still has relevancy there as well. They are the ones trying to be more aggressive on the map, and every time they miss, it's more time they're not quite farming efficiently. YG are just shoving in top lane. Top tier 1 still stands, still really healthy. Looks like AG is just going to gun for the bot tier 2, perhaps.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
They may. It's only DB around, though.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Wami could go for the Blink Ravage, but I don't think they have enough around young PH to really secure the kill.
Dire's top tower.
In the meantime, YG, tier 1 secured, they'll go for a big smoker. When they've got all their ultis up, so you definitely want to get these on cooldown if you can. Hal certainly doesn't really have damage issues right now, especially with the follow-up Ice Blast. Oh, they could find Azura if they check the Roshan pit. They won't, however. They had no vision of Azura waveforming in like that. Eventually the AA will get the vision required, but it's all too late anyway.
Yeah, it's a bit risky from Azura. He had the DD, where he felt like would be worthwhile attempting the Rosh, but they had that ward outside, they saw them pass through. Would have been a very risky fight if YG figured out what was going on. Still,
Chains out, but the smoke screen's there. Young PH, he's going to be just fine. Lun keeping him safe with this Rolling Thunder. Ice Blast. He's actually going to land onto the Ricky, but it won't do too much. Meanwhile, on the side, they have found the Oracle. So Varish going to end up dropping here. AG is still trying to posture aggressively, but it doesn't seem like they're exactly 100% ready to go for a big fight. In fact, I say that, but Lift is out. They've got the Ember. Chain's not going to be there, but the Ravage is going to be enough. And of course, they'll find Zorain. Chrono's going to be out. Do you have an Ice Blast, though? Well, not quite. We just saw Zorain go down. Wami, he's still going to drop. RP does eventually fly out, but you don't have the follow-up damage.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Back to Zura. He'll just keep going. Can he get the chains off? Well, he can, but he's not going to die at the tier 3 tower. You'll leave him be. In fact, I believe they might just go after the Roshan instead.
it's open. They've got good vision out. They can plant more wards in triangle, secure their position. And they know the big teamfight spells are down. RP's down, Chrono's down. Rolling Thunder's going to be up in a bit, but it's only that and Ice Blast. So you have a lot you can do here on AG's end. They won't commit yet. Looks like they will kind of play it safe. And I think without the Ricky, it's a bit of a harder sell. So just going to back off, keep building up. Perhaps they're worried as well without Ravage that they can't quite counteract the Ember Spirit coming in.
Ice Blast. Out on Azura, but they're not going to go for the dive in. Not without those ultis up. Skill lay very close to that blink now. You'd love that added initiation for your team, and well, now he does buy it out. So happy days for YG. It's like we do kind of just go back into that farming period, though. Neither team really 100% ready to force a Roshan fight.
Yeah.
With all the ultis
just
down.
Patient.
Yeah.
Like they've just got a lot to farm out for on YG, so I think they're fine with a slower pace. Just play with Empower, build up on Ember, build up on Faces Void, even build up on your Pangolier. He also benefits from the Empower as well if you want to toss that out onto him. Work onto that Ags and Ag Shard, and you have a lot more forward presence there for Lun once that gold is running. So I think YG does want the slower game. AG still has a 6k lead, but it hasn't increased, nor has it dropped. So YG are still playing within a good range where they're going at the same farming pace as AG is. Right? Like, they're not falling behind on camps, they're not falling behind in net worth. And I think that can keep them in game, which means that the 6k lead isn't as big of a factor. They will have to worry about this Morphling having Scotty up. Azura's got a lot of stats now, and healing reduction, and slows. And if he does get the Ember form, he can just apply that Scotty with a Sleight of Fist.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Bot tier 2 tower gonna drop. Outpost to be taken now, AG. Time to slowly take over this map. Big smoke up here from YG. They want to try and get aggressive. Mid lane, Wami's gonna show up.
Are scanning.
This isn't exactly the target they really want to try and make the jump on though, Wami. It's just fine for now. They want a much softer target. A DB would be a very nice one. In fact, Ravage is out. Wami, he knew they were there. Young PH is going to be able to BKB in time. RP is out as well. They've caught 2 targets, but do they have the damage output? Chrono, Ice Blast, everything being thrown onto the Morphling, but False Promise was there just in the nick of time. He should still die through it, however, and he does. DB, he's trying to force the fight, but it's not going to work out for him. He needs to get out with the tricks of the trade, and he does. But for how long can he get away? It doesn't look great for them. They even pop a smoke. Just complete panic here from AG. And it seemed like a great initiation, but in the end, the counter initiation was there.
They managed to get Ravage off before the BKBs were used. They just didn't have the follow-through. I think DB needed to be a lot closer there, and they needed to declump the Morphling from the Tide. Azura was way too close to Wami, opened up the Ravage, opened up the RP, just led to an easy counter initiation for YG. Take the Roshan as well to Aegis up on How, and this is the point where YG starts to feel a lot stronger. Lead down to 2k for AG. YG team fight showing through. The BKBs are a massive issue. And AG was very fortunate to even get a Ravage through 2 BKBs. I don't know if you can pull that off again. Maybe if you have the vision advantage, you can be that quick. But YG has a lot of ways of playing against what AG has, and it feels like, for their part, AG's gonna need a lot more farm on Azura and DB to really hit that spike. But they smoke up. They don't have Ravage, but they know there's no RP Chrono. They could force a fight.
I think things are starting to get relatively scary here for AG now. Like, you are still going into avoid into the late game. DB does at least get skill lane at the top lane. Meanwhile, the rest of the team are going to invade the triangle. How? Be a primary target. If they can lock him down, they've got the lift down. How? He's going to be able to time walk. At least for now, they'll still keep trying. Fortune's gonna fly in, but he's got the BKB up now in the Ice Blast. Is gonna land onto the Morphling. They might be able to turn this one around, and they do. Azura ends up dropping. Wami, he is not looking great himself as the tips are flying out onto Azura. And Wami's gone. In fact, they might even have a third. Barish gonna try and get himself out, but there is no escaping. YG looking fantastic now during this game too.
Getting everything they want. Big issue for our Morphling is that he tends to be the one running in, right? Like, he needs to jump in, get the damage off, but that opens him up to a lot of control. Like, that was a very tight spot to force the fight. Rolling Thunder was available on Lund. The chain stuns came in. The bashes came through from How, and they couldn't save. They couldn't save him from the Ice Blast. The False Promise couldn't fly out. And once you're in that situation, Morphling's just dead. You need a BKB here on the Morph. They are trying to farm it up on Azura, but it feels like the pressure is getting to AG. Like, they lose the lead now. How is in a comfy lead in that we're at about 1.6k above Azura now. So your Void's hitting this massive spike thanks to the Empower and just having access to the map. AG just need to save up. Get that BKB on Azura. That helps to a certain extent, not fully. I think you also have to work together as a team. It's a bit more scattered from AG. They're just not initiating as 5 anymore. They're kind of streaming in different groups of 3 into groups of 2. And if they manage to just move as a unit of 5, line up your Ravage use, line up your Smoke Screen use, get the follow-ups, I think that's where AG can start to bring a fight back here.
Top tier 2.
Dire structures are
Down pretty confidently here with Hal in the front.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Chrono's still available. You've got everything available. You'd love to try and force a high ground fight now if you're YG. They'll play it safe. They'll back off. They might just go back for the outpost. A 1k net worth advantage. I mean, they're not too far ahead, but I think with the Aegis up, you would at least want to try and go high ground before it does expire. And thing is, it does expire in 1 minute 40, so you haven't got too much time. I think Hal's just going to go back for the Eye of Skadi first and maybe just try to rush the high ground after. Or at least try to rush a fight right after. And he does have it up now, so we'll see what they get done.
Yeah. I think they've got a massive opening here in YG. AG, they just have to kind of respect that output right now. They are still trying to build up farm, you know, saving up for those BKBs as mentioned earlier on. But I think at this point, a big item that could come through is a Rubik Shard. And Varish, right in the middle of everyone, just manages to TP home. But Rubik Shard, I think, is really important. LYM, he's got the blink. He needs a shard. If they can lift up and save whoever's jumped or caught in chrono, that could be one way to turn it around. Just save your Morphling, pull him back, let him reset and jump back in.
TP. I mean, he is invis. I guess it's going to be much harder to find him, but make his way out.
Where are you watching?
A lot of split pushing happening between these two teams. EB, I believe he was spotted there for a second, but Alan gonna get the Yules off on the illusion. Probably realizes now that it is just an illusion, but he got him good. And that illusion probably not gonna mess with Lun again.
Yeah. You know, you gotta send a message out sometimes, Mike. It's one way to send a message. You don't mess around. You see that here, he's dead. Next time around, DB shows up, he's just gone.
We got it. Absolutely. I mean,
Radiant's
at what point do you think that AG kind of have the advantage again here? Like,
Dire's bottom tower
I mean, these Chrono Ice Blasts have just been fantastic thus far from YG. Is there a point where you start to feel like AG is the stronger team again?
It takes a lot of farm. I think that also relies on the Morphling and possibly your Ricky to get hyper farmed, and you're just not reaching that point. You're not able to work the map as efficiently as a Void would Empower right now. They don't have access to as much of the map as well. YG's doing a good job of keeping wave shoved in, clearing out camps on their side, and walking around as a unit. For AG, perhaps a refresh on Wami's a big one. And speaking of Wami,
Yeah, young PH, he's moving in. Got the Ags up already on that Ember, so very easy pickings here. So he can just continue to chase down Wami, no problem. Eventually, they should find a kill, and they do. Almost felt like they're all just fighting over who gets the kill there for the side of YG. Eventually, the Ember does get it. Surprise, surprise.
yeah. Nice kill to pick up. Wami just trying to get farm where he can, taking the risky farm for his team. Still a nice kill to pick up, though. No threat of Ravage for half a minute. If YG wants to, again, this is an opening where they could play aggressive. Looks like they will just kind of settle down for now. Not really not really being pressured to play fast, because they've got the Void, they've got the Magnus, right? Like, they've got these spells that go through BKB that don't really have counterplay to a certain extent. There is False Promise and the Fate's Edict for the disarm on Varish, but we haven't seen that really be impactful outside of one fight where the False Promise did sort of save, but the combination with the Ice Blast is just too strong. So I think YG, again, they can take the backseat, just build up. They don't really need to care too much, and it's AG that might need to start thinking about going outside. And you asked me a while ago, Mike, how they scaled back in. It just takes so much farm, and they're just not overtaking this Void anytime soon in items.
Yeah, but they aren't.
Radiant are scanning.
And YG, I mean, they are kind of giving an opening. Like, it does feel like they're more than strong enough to try and force something, as you see young PH manages to find LYM in the end. With the timing you have right now, you might want to take advantage if you're YG, but they may feel as though they've got the stronger late game anyway. Just drag it out as long as humanly possible. He's actually doing a decent enough job of it, but in the end he will have to go down. Question is, can they actually find someone of worth? Lun does spot out the Morphling. Waveform away. BKB forced out. Azura just gonna TP away immediately. So YG not really finding the hero they needed to find to try and force a big high ground or a tier 2 tower. Make matters worse, Hal misses out on the double damage rune as well.
I think you're still alright for that. You force the BKB out from the Morphling, take away another charge, dragging it down to 8 seconds now. first charge used by Azura. And again, you have the scaling to the late game. I'd agree with YG's mindset that they've got late game scaling here in the bag. Like Void, Magnus, even the Ember at this point can just do so much work where it's for AG. And they're trying to go for the Satanic on Azura. That's going to help with the sustain. The refresh is up though. So if Wami does get a good jump in, gets a double Ravage, that could be how you turn it. You will have to catch them before BKBs are popped, and that is a very tight window, but it does give an angle for AG to play with now.
The Roshan they go. Ravage is going to be committed immediately, but where's your follow-up? What? That was a very interesting Ravage to commit. Wami, I mean, maybe just feel like the whole team was in there, but nobody follows up. Now they've got no Ravage to play with. How? He's going to refresh.
Oh.
All right, maybe it was a bit of a fake as young PH is dropped in the backside. Now Lund goes down. All right, it looks like Wami had a game plan all along as Hal, he's going to try and run away from this. He's going to look for a big chrono out. Azura, meanwhile, going right after young PH, trying to find a dieback. Hal still has that chrono, will commit it, but you haven't got the Ice Blast quite yet. False Promise is there in time as well, so they've saved the Morphling's life. In fact, young PH, he's been put to sleep again. He can't run away in time. In fact, he gets one off, but DB, he'll keep the chase up. Remnant back the other way, towards the left, and he'll barely survive. But Skill Lay will drop. Hal. Lockdown, Sleeping Dart is there. Young PH looking for a reset on the Ember. Meanwhile, Skill A, he just fought back, but he's going right back to the graveyard, or maybe not. RP committed, Skewer away. Ice Blast is there, DB. He's still alright though. He'll blink strike out. Wami, he might be the one to drop, and he finally goes down as now you've got young PH. He finds DB out onto LYM. They might just get another, and they will. Azura, he's the last man left standing here with Barish. It's not looking great for him though. They have not got enough. Surely, Azura must die. Skewer back. They'll find Skill A with a dieback with Remnants forward. Azura trying to TP. It's not enough though. Rampage is taken away though. Of all people, Zorain takes the Azura kill. So no Rampage for young PH, but a great team fight in the end.
Yeah, it's a 5 for 6 trade, if you can believe that, coming through. Or a 5 for 7 trade with dieback and Rubik. They clean out the Roche. Big pickup for YG as they start to stride into form. It looked like AG had a good start. You know, maybe that was a bait play with a Ravage. I don't think so. I think AG just had a very split up game plan. They were chasing on the back line first. The Ravage might have gotten them that opening, but it does feel a bit disjointed from AG, and YG are able to work together as a team very well. Like now they're bouncing back in. Now they've got the safety net on young PH. With the Aeon disc up, he can afford to be up front. He can afford to be caught by Ravage. It's harder for AG to play around now. They will have Ravage in 24 to refresh on top of that as well. So they should be able to hold high ground and wait for their cores to respawn. But YG are on the up and up. You don't have a counterplay for Ice Blast. That's it. Even with the BKB, the Ice Blast effect will still go through. And you just have to deal with that. The Ricky and the Morphling just don't enjoy it. And they need to find a way to take Zalrain out of the picture. Issue is, Zalrain, he's very comfy with buying back. Because the AA doesn't need to be at a point where he has to be in front of the fight. You know, he dies, buys back, Ice Blast still flies through. So there's always that play for YG, and that makes it very hard for AG to even think of just getting any of these fights on hand now.
Yeah. The YG's played this really well, and I thought it was a great team fight from AG that last time around. Like, the first Ravage looked a little bit weird, but had the refresh orb the whole time, gets a second one off. Looks like it was going to work out, but eventually the buybacks do pay off. Still just a 6k net worth lead here for YG, and this time around it could be very dangerous. You've got double Ravage and barely any buybacks available for YG, and there's your Ravage out. They've got the young PH immediately, but the Aeon Disc not going to save, or maybe it will. Fortune's End will fly through, but the BKB is already there by young PH. In fact, he's going to move back in now. Chains out. RP, though, is way off the mark. Nice attempt, I guess.
Yeah, it's back and forth. You waste a couple of spells on both sides. The refresh Ravage is down for 2 minutes, but You also don't have RP on YG's end, and LYM has RP himself. So, because of his added cast range, that RP is very wide for LYM. If he does manage to find blink opportunity, that could be, again, another way for AG to get an opening in this game. They just need to have some patience. Probably best to just wait for Ravage to be back up.
Big smoke up, though. Because YG do not want to allow it. Azura would be a great kill. Ice Blast is going to fly through and connect right onto two of them. They've got the false promise, but not for long. Hal takes down the Oracle, and now Azura will be the second to fall. A great chrono out from Hal. And they even have a double damage rune at the top rune spot. Perfect timing. Should be at least a tier 3 tower if you do pick up the DD rune. And they'll go after it.
How do you stop this Void now? Like, Hal has the Butterfly, has a Satanic, he has an insane amount of armor. He has evasion, there's no way to stop that from AG's side as well. They haven't itemized for it. And it's just difficult for the core-to-core matchups now. Like, they've just kind of missed the timing where the Ricky and Morphling were strong. Now they have to just figure out the puzzle of how to pierce through to face this Void.
Yeah, Hal gets the work. Mid-racks, I mean, without the double damage, not quite as fast, but it'll eventually get done. Aegis up for another minute if they wanted to keep forcing this, but it looks like they will play it safe. They're still a while away for the next Roshan, but you've got tier 4 items you can farm up. And the net worth gap is only increasing between AG and YG anyway. And again, I think with the Void, it's very strong ultra late game, as well as the Ember for that matter, and the Magnus, because you've got all these BKB piercing spells that will just give you the advantage no matter what. And this Morphling, it's just been such a struggle for Azura this game. In his KDA, like, his kill score doesn't even look too bad. Like, he's 8-5 and 4, but as long as he gets chronoed, he's just gonna die every single time.
Yeah, it's a matter of spacing. I think they've got to have Varish at the range where he's far enough to still cast, to not get caught in chrono in Ice Blast, but close enough to still get the false promise off, and that's just very hard to pull off in practice. Like, he can't afford to stick that close to the Morphling as we saw in the last fight, because if he's caught in chrono as well, there's no save. Like, all their save is on the Oracle. I am still surprised that LYM has not gone for the Shard. I think, again, Telekinesis can be a really good saving tool with the Shard upgrade. He is opting instead to go for the Glimmer Cape, maybe mitigating some of the magic damage coming through and trying to stall out these games, these fights, but I think the Shard has to come out from our Rubik at some point, just because that lift back can help you reset, and again, that's another way for AG to kind of just stall out and keep trying to go back in.
DB gonna try and sneak around this Roshan pit. Meanwhile, towards the south, you've got another big smoke up here. YG, they might be able to put a little in this game if they can get another big team fight their way. And with the chrono up, they've just gonna land it on at least Azura, and it looks like they've spotted him out. Azura, though, gonna back off at the right moment, understanding that they are probably smoked around him somewhere. So nothing will come out of this 5-man smoke. Because at the very least, they could try to force this bottom tier 2 tower while they're here, and it looks like they'll probably do that. That's about all they're going to get, though. They probably just take the tier 2, go back for the Roshan. I guess you could try to force high ground. I think it's still fine, but Roshan's a minute and a half away from maybe respawning, so you may as well just wait it out.
Yeah. No need to rush in for YG. They do not have to, take initiative here. They can just play it safe all they want. They can just keep building up farm. And AG just don't have a way of counteracting that. They don't have a way of counteracting that scaling. 26-24, 12k lead for YG. All outer towers gone for AG. Mid racks exposed and gone. So they've always got this mid lane to have to shove back in. They're trying to be sneaky though, Skillet.
Leave Warmy be, however, towards the south, DB going to be very careful. He's going to make the jump in on the AA, but they've got the Yule Scepter on Hal. He might just chrono for this. He won't quite yet. DB, he'll go for a run. Young PH is around as well. The BKB about to wear off soon. Azura's going to jump in, but they've got the Ricky now. False promises out. Try and save his life as long as possible. But for how long can they buy the time? Ravage is there. Wami, he gets one, but the RP there in time. There's your secondary, but where's your damage output? There's skill A gone, but the Chrono's great. How? He found 3 targets. DB, Wami, both gone. Azura, he's going to keep trying to fight this one out, but how long can you fight, sir? Not for long. Not when you're getting permabash like this. And eventually, with the Gleipnir, they lock him down. Still the buybacks come out. How? On an ultra kill. Would love a rampage for himself. They just need a target, and he'll go right after Varish in the backside. Meanwhile, towards the south, DB, he'll find Zorain. So they've got the AA down without buyback available. And in the end, AG, while it wasn't a great fight for them, with the buybacks available, they do force back the side of YG. Though I say that, Smoke immediately broken. How? Might just go back in and does. Immediately onto Azura. They love the Morphling, but the RP OIM, he's stolen away on the Rubik. But where's your damage? They're doing literally 0 damage right now to December. Young PH, he's going to survive through all of it. DB did not have enough. And in the end, the RP was great, but well, actually, in the end, they do find the Ember. They've just lost Wami in response. Because now they'll go for more. Young PH, he just buys back on the Ember. Ends up getting a kill onto LYM. DB's still trying to fight. In fact, never mind. He's just trying to run. But you've got 2 heroes down without buyback. This might be another high ground attempt here from YG.
It's a fairly safe high ground as well. They've got the numbers advantage. They know these heroes are down. And without Ravage, I think the team fight for AG just kind of falls flat. Chrono going to be up in half a minute. RP in 20. And they have the tools to force this out. And AGs just have to play their cards right in order to stave off this push.
Oh, Braindrax is gone. The smoke screen, it is going to buy a lot of time here. Rax, they've got even more disarm here, so more time to buy, but Hao is not giving up. He's going for the Megas. Chrono back up and available. He's got the rewind button as well. Disarm, obviously very annoying, but at least with the status resist he does have, it doesn't last quite as long as it should. Still, they might buy enough time to actually force a fight here if you are AG. I mean, these disarms are just so infuriating. They aren't enough. Hal's still going. Skill A's looking for a skewer back now. It looks like he might just get it as well. He's found the target that they really wanted to get. And that should be Mega Creeps coming out for YG.
They've got the big team fight spells as well, so if the jump in does come through from Wami, they've got the counterplay. And AG, Mega Creeps up, have to be really careful here.
Yeah, Wami gonna get jumped. A lot of damage now on this Void. Meanwhile, towards the south, who have they gone? They're trying to go onto Lun. DB, he does secure 1 kill. Wami, he's in with the Ravage. It connects on 3. It's not bad. There's another Ravage comes through, but the Chrono is already there from Hal. It has been stolen by OIM, so he's gonna lock 2 of them down on the enemy team, but it won't matter. Because again, you haven't got any follow-up to all this. Hal still kind of getting juked around. Here is Azura now getting dived in the fountain. Young PH ends up finding the Morphling. DB trying to secure the kill. It's not looking great for him though. Hal, he's literally tanked the fountain as he's taken down this Ricky. And eventually the GG will be called. YG, they do manage to get at least 1 game before the night is over. And what a game it was.
Yeah, it's a strong performance from YG. They finally make the Faceless Void work for themselves. How? What a great performance here. Getting the build up, and I think it's just down to draft. They had a way to protect that Faceless Void. They had a great steroid in the Magnus. They had the Ember. You know, Young PH still had a bit of a back and forth lane, but it's much more manageable compared to game 1. For AG, I mean, they dipped into that Ricky last pick for DB, which kind of made sense. It's just that they had no big way of dealing with that late game scaling. Ricky, as a hero, just has a hard cap in how it scales. The Morphling can scale, but in comparison to Face's Void, you just don't handle Chrono well, you don't handle the Ice Blast well as a hero, and they just didn't have the tool towards the end. Like, even if they got these counterplays out, YG was on top of the buybacks. They knew they had openings. They knew that once Double Ravage was down, they could just take over. And once the bashes were flying through from How, they couldn't save Azure. They couldn't save DB, and that just piled up for YG in the end.
And that certainly did, John. Very exciting day of Dota. Of course, we're going to have more Dota coming up tomorrow for the BTS Pro Series Season 9. 3 more series coming up. But for tonight, that's about it. I know we usually do 4 best of 2s a day for Pro Series, but this time around we've changed up a little bit. 3 best of 2s instead. And with that, we'll have to head out now. I think it's already... Oh, excuse me. The music on accidentally. It's already 2 a.m. in the morning, Jonathan. At least for me. 2:15 in the morning. So it is MLP Dota on JohnXFire, and it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you all again for some more great SEA Dota. See you then.